What's up, pimps? There's people told me to try Dear Easter. Well, Esther. Alright, let's try this. Yes. This is a blind Let's Play.
I have lost track of how long I have been here, and how many visits I have made overall. Certainly the landmarks are now so familiar to me that I have to remind myself to actually see the forms and shapes in front of me. I could stumble blind across these rocks, the edges of these precipices, without fear of missing my step and plummeting down to sea. Besides, I have always considered that if one is to fall, it is critical to keep one's eyes firmly open.
Oh, I gotta control this. I need the mouse sensitivity up a little bit. What do we have here? Some old boats. Alright, backstory. What I know about this game is that you're on an abandoned island. Ooh, this flashlight turns on automatically. Okay, let's go inside the house. That toilet has seen better fucking days. Look at this mess. Doors hanging off. Paint cans. I guess somebody wanted to paint something. A lantern. Oh, there's a book. Can you interact with anything? I don't know. This is a pretty game though. What is this? There's a scientific theory. Let's see. H-A... Okay, I guess we need to head toward the lighthouse. Take the high road or the low road? Let's take the low road first, because I figured the high road is the proper way to take. Because it has guardrails on it. I probably should have read a little bit more up on this game. What is that? There's paint of some sort. I don't know if this is a horror game. I don't know if this is a survival game. It doesn't seem like I can interact with anything, but for some reason I'm entertained. Is that strange? Walk along the beach. Walking along the beach. Is there any crabs or anything I can kick? There's a net. In survival situations, this net is oh, here's more of them. I guess somebody's been catching fucking crabs and stuff. These are like those little traps. Like if I was on an abandoned island, those would be things I'd be hoarding. Because, you know, even if you don't use them all for catching crab or whatnot, you can still,
When you were born, your mother told me, a hush fell over the delivery room. A great red birthmark covered the left side of your face. No one knew what to say, so you cried to fill the vacuum. I always admired you for that you cried to fill whatever vacuum you found. I began to manufacture vacuums, just to enable you to deploy your talent. The birthmark faded by the time you were 6, and had gone completely by the time we met, but your fascination with the empty and its cure remained.
ooh, what is this? Before. Alright. So, my character had a birthmark birth, obviously. And as he grew up, he wanted to vacuum the floor. So pretty much my character is a bitch.
I have found the ship's manifest, crumpled and waterlogged under a stash of paint cans. It tells me that along with this present cargo, there was a large quantity of antacid yogurt bound for the European market. It must have washed out to sea. God knows there are no longer gulls or goats here to eat it.
Huh. I can't seem to jump. I guess this is the end of this area. So let's go up those stairs we just found. You know, this actually is really pretty. I wonder what this symbol means. I mean, I wonder if this, you're not supposed to see this on the first playthrough. It's, I'm gonna say dual fours curving around. Let's see. It would be nice if there was like a run feature on this game. So let's press control. Can I do anything? Alt do anything? No. So far it's just like a regular, you know, shooter. ASD and the mouse. This path has not been used in a while. It gets narrow as the mountain seems to have grown into it. Alright, let's see here. This is a big old thing. Is that the lighthouse over there? I guess I walked past the light. What's that beacon? Is that a radio tower? Cell phone tower? Is that even on the island? Huh. This is a very,
Reading Donnelly by the weak afternoon sunlight. He landed on the south side of the island, followed the path to the bay and climbed the mount. He did not find the caves, and he did not chart the north side. I think this is why his understanding of the island is flawed, incomplete. He stood on the mount and only wondered momentarily how to descend. But then, he didn't have my reasons.
You know what this game reminds me of? It reminds me of Trespasser. You know, you better create Wings. What the fuck is Trespasser? Well, Trespasser was a game for the PC.
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boat, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this: to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
So there's an infection. Damn, this thing's getting built up now.
They were God-fearing people, those shepherds. There was no love in the relationship. Donnelly tells me that they had one Bible that was passed around in strict rotation. It was stolen by a visiting monk in 1776, 2 years before the island was abandoned altogether. In the interim, I wonder, did they assign chapter and verse to the stones and grasses, marking the geography with a superimposed significance, that they could actually walk the Bible and inhabit its contradiction?
Okay. I'm thinking I should have took that very first thing. What is this? This stone looks weird. The game reminds me of Trespasser. I guess we gotta make it to that lighthouse. In the sense of oh, there's a ship. That you'd have John Hammond read passages talking about the island and how it went through, and I really enjoyed that.
I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life. I threw my arms wide and the cliff opened out before me, making this rough home. I transferred my belongings from the bothy on the mount and tried to live here instead. It was cold at night, and the sea lapped at the entrance at high tide. To climb the peak, I must first venture even deeper into the veins of the island, where the signals are blocked altogether. Only then will I understand them, when I stand on the summit and they flow into me, uncorrupted.
So this is where he lives? That was actually really creepy. Wonder if I can get into the water and swim over to the lighthouse. Will allow me to do that? Yes, it will. That's dark. Just stay on the. Let's just stay on the top of the water and kind of creep our way toward the lighthouse.
Come back.
Oh, it won't let me do that. Okay. I don't know, dude, but this game has like the hairs on my arms standing up. It's actually a very wonderful. Now I can't really get back up there. I guess we gotta go back into the... Oh, here's something. Oh, I was talking about Trespasser, and I was talking about how John Hammond basically would read over telling about the history of the island, because Trespasser, you would be stuck on the Island B, which the Lost World was originally filmed on, and you can see like the remnants of the park and stuff, and it was actually rather cool. The game suffered poorly from really bad detail and things like that, but the overall story of the game...
I've become convinced I am not alone here, even though I am equally sure it is simply a delusion brought upon by circumstance. I do not, for instance, remember where I found the candles, or why I took it upon myself to light such a strange pathway. Perhaps it is only for those who are bound to follow.
This game, like, it's so cryptic how he says that. It's like, I want to keep pushing forward and just see what he means. Like, he's keeping rescuers from coming. It's like a Stonehenge or something. Expect another passage here soon. That shit's wicked, son. I should probably take note of that design. If I was walking this island in the real, I'd probably have drawn that design down. This game has atmosphere, dude. It does. Like, you know, I'm playing Amnesia as well at the same time. Oh, god damn bush. At the same time, in this game right here is creepier than Amnesia.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my Ordnance Survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome break services. But although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
Yeah, I know what he's talking about there. There's a big old ship. Maybe this is where the infection came from, but I haven't seen any things from the infection yet. Ship's run aground. Looks like a royal steamer. Look, more ships have run aground. Let's see if I can get inside this big one. Doesn't seem like there's anywhere I can get without jumping. So I guess we're going to go up on the cliffside up here. Yeah, this is actually thoroughly interesting. I want to hear more backstory about this. And, like, I guess that's why the game is designed. It gives you nothing and lets you wander around. Like, this would be a fantastic movie. Like, this is how movies should actually be. You know, if the first 15 minutes is just straight dialogue and a dude walking on an island, I'd be thoroughly impressed. I mean, a lot of people probably wouldn't, but me, myself, like I'm questioning it right now. Like, why is there barbed wire fence here? Did he put the barbed wire fence up? Why are all these, like, ships so close to all? Why is there so many shipwrecks on this island? Like, I understand that it's a cape, but do they naturally just gravitate to the island, or are they getting struck? I mean, there's man-made passageways. Where's this path?
It's only at night that this place makes any sluggish effort at life. You can see the buoy and the aerial. I've been taking to sleeping through the day in an attempt to resurrect myself. I can feel the last days drawing upon me. There's little point now in continuation. There must be something new to find here. Some nook or some cranny that offers a perspective worth clinging to. I've burnt my bridges. I've sunk my boats and watched them go to water.
What was I saying? Oh, but the pathway of light. He talked about lighting a pathway for other people on the island, and it's like, go down that way. This is a circle. Maybe you go down there. It's like, look at this. This is a man-made stair. Look at the chains on the fence. Like, why are they there? This is an abandoned island. So why is there all this? I'm guessing. I only can assume that it come from the ship itself. These ship right here has probably had crew members. They built up on the island, and this guy somehow got abandoned on the island as well, but sometime after. And if that's the case, is the people on the island a delusion of his, or is it actual people still on the island? He said that Waby rescuers. Is that a muffler? Is there a car muffler there?
I had kidney stones, and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
What does that mean? His kidney stones have become an island. Could it mean that the growth? Could it mean that the problem that he has dealing with mentally has suddenly turned into this?
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
I guess his left pathway is the way to the radio tower. But could his kidney stones be like a metaphor to basically say they had like a mental problem, and it slowly faded into this large mental problem? Could it all be a delusion? I mean, it seems like plants seem to have no trouble to growing here, but I'm also questioning. I've seen no food plants here, which, you know, obviously it's a video game. Is he eating straight fish? If that's so, where's the clean water? You gotta have some source of clean water, and I've yet to see a source of clean water. I've seen a bunch of possible salt water. Assuming this is not in the middle of like Lake Superior or something, but I think Lake Superior is. I don't know if Lake Superior is freshwater or not. There's another house. Like, who built these houses?
I've begun to climb, away from the sea and towards the center. It is a straight line to the summit, where the evening begins to coil around the aerial and squeeze the signals into early silence. The bothy squats against the mount to avoid the gaze of the aerial. I too will creep under the island like an animal and approach it from the northern shore.
See, there's syringes, a bottle of anesthetic. There's some of those skin clamping scissors. 2 more syringes, 2 more bottles, some gauze. Like, what was who was sitting there fixing themselves like that? This is such beautiful music.
The bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jakobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not work. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either. 3 cormorants seen at dusk. They did not land. This house built of stone, built by a long-dead shepherd. Contents: my camp bed, a stove, a table, chairs, my clothes, my books. The caves that score out the belly of this island, leaving it famished. My limbs and belly famished. This skin, these organs, this failing eyesight. When the battery runs out in my torch, I will descend into the caves and follow only the phosphorescence home.
So he's basically saying that he's hungry and he's dying. How much rocks there is out there. There's another like barn type structure. Let's go check out this one. Arrayed with discarded pennies in an underground superhighway. To awaken at the bottom of a cave. To cast yourself into the light. I find the reckless abandon that this guy issued even with a hurt leg. But the thing I struggle to remember the most is why is there paintings all over the cave walls? Am I the last survivor of the USS Damascus? That's a question I have to ask myself. And even so, what happens at the end of this game? I see him walking towards the light, if that is that metaphorical. Pretty sure that's the end of the cave level. Alas, the golden rays of sunshine peek through. Well, not really sunshine, they're candles. At the edge of a tent. I find myself more humble at this experience.
I wish I could have known Donnelly in this place. We would have had so much to debate. Did he paint these stones or did I? Who left the pots in the hut by the jetty? Who formed the museum under the sea? Who fell silently to his death into the frozen waters? Who erected this godforsaken aerial in the first place? Did this whole island rise to the surface of my stomach, forcing the gulls to take flight?
You know, even though I'm sitting in this room in the dark at midnight, I can smell the air here. Just from like future references, just like I can pick it up and I can smell it. And I can picture myself walking on this bay.
I returned home with a pocket full of stolen ash. Half of it fell out of my coat and vanished into the car's upholstery, but the rest I carefully stowed away in a box I kept in a drawer by the side of my bed. It was never intended as a meaningful act, but over the years it became a kind of talisman. I'd sit still, quite still for hours, just holding the diminishing powder in my palm and noting its smoothness. In time, we will all be worn down into granules, washed into the sea and dispersed.
The dialogue kind of leaves me wanting more. So I'm trying to quickly follow these lights as much, because I feel like a closure.
There were chemical diagrams on the posters on the walls in the waiting room. It seemed appropriate at the time. Still life abstractions of the processes which had already begun to break down your nerves and your muscles in the next room. I crammed diazepam as I once crammed for chemistry examinations. I am revising my options for a long and happy life.
What I think he's saying here is it's ironic how life, and it also reminds me of that poem. Which is kind of slipping my mind right now, but
from here, I can see my armada. I collected all the letters I'd ever meant to send to you, if I'd have ever made it to the mainland, but had instead collected at the bottom of my rucksack, and I spread them out along the lost beach. Then I took each and every one, and I folded them into boats. I folded you into the creases, and then, as the sun was setting, I set the fleet to sail. Shattered into 21 pieces, I consigned you to the Atlantic, and I sat here until I'd watched all of you sink.
we squander wealth in search of health. We scrimp, prim, and save. Then we squandered wealth in search of health. But all we get is the grave. Maybe this is his last goodbye. Maybe it was just his last trot around the island. His 21-gun salute, based strictly upon the naval fleet of paper.
Come back.
And there it is. The radio tower that we seen at the beginning of the island. Seems like it's almost in touching distance at this point, but it seems like we're not going there. Where is this curvature of the mountain leading us?
The pain in my leg sent me blind for a few minutes as I struggled up the cliff path. I swallowed another handful of painkillers, and now I feel almost lucid. The island around me has retreated to a hazed distance, whilst the moon appears to have descended into my palm to guide me. I can see a thick black line of infection reaching for my heart from the waistband of my trousers. Through the fugue, it's all the world like the path I have cut from the lowlands towards the aerial.
You know, one would think if you had an infection that bad that a black line was going up through your veins reaching towards your heart, that you couldn't be walking as much as this guy is. he would have to be super high on some painkillers.
I've begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. I will fly to the moon in it. I've been folded along a crease in time, a weakness in the sheet of life. Now you've settled on the opposite side of the paper to me. I can see your traces in the ink that soaks through the fiber, the pulped vegetation. When we become waterlogged and the cage disintegrates, we will intermingle. When this paper aeroplane leaves the cliff edge and casts parallel vapor trails in the dark, we will come together.
You can tell it's getting darker by the minute here.
If only Donnelly had experienced this, he would have realized he was his own shoreline, as am I. Just as I am becoming this island, so he became his syphilis, retreating into the burning synapses, the stones, the infection.
Seems like we will be making it to the radio tower. As a whole, I don't regret spending the $10 on this game. I find myself...
There are headlights reflected in these retinas. Too long in the tunnels of my island without a bottom. The sea creatures have risen to the surface, but the gulls are not here to carry them back to their nests. I've become fixed, open and staring, an eye turned on itself. I've become an infected leg whose tracking lines form a perfect map of the junctions of the M5. I will take the exit at mid-thigh and plummet to my Esther.
Seems like Esther will be a better word for ether. Like, this guy seems like he's on a final death row. Wouldn't it
Blind
be like...
with panic, deaf with the roar of the cage traffic, heart stopped on the road to Damascus. Paul sat at the roadside, hunched up like a gull, like a bloody gull, as useless and as doomed as a syphilitic cartographer, a dying goat herd, an infected leg, a kidney stone, blocking the traffic bound for Sanford and Exeter. He was not drunk, Esther. He was not drunk at all. All his roads and his tunnels and his paths led inevitably to this moment of impact. This is not a recorded natural condition. He should not be sat there with his chemicals and his circuit diagrams. He should not be sat there at all.
And there it is. The overall feel of this game is loneliness and reflecting on a past life.
I have run out of places to climb. I will abandon this body and take to the air. Dear Esther, I have burnt my belongings, my books, this death certificate. Mine will be written all across this island. Who was Jakobsen? Who remembers him? Donnelly has written of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into this space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an aerial, a beacon, that they will not forget you. We have always been drawn here. One day the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Paul Jakobsen flying beside me. They will leave white lines carved into the air to reach the mainland, where help will be sent.
all alone in a purple room. Work for what we own, and all at the end of the day you get is a stone.